these fighters stand. Clint McLean gonna break it down, give you the scoop. Hold on tight, this ain't no ordinary loot. UFC's the battleground where warriors collide. DieHard MMA podcast, we won't hide. Clint's gonna deep, analyze each brawl from the underdogs to the champions standing tall. The fury, let your instincts rise. Feel the adrenaline rush, it's time to defy. DieHard MMA, we're in it for the thrill. Get ready for the madness. Let's make that bankroll spill.
Happy Friday, degenerates, and welcome to the Undefeated Post-Weigh-In Show. I'm your host, your boy, as always, Clint, right here behind the camera. We're talking about UFC Vegas 98. We take one final look at these fighters as they step on the scale, as they face off with each other. We put everything we've learned throughout the week, and we do our best to make you some money, help you make the best decisions possible when it comes to betting the UFC card tomorrow. But, guys, I need a minute. I need a second, okay? This show is about breaking down everything one last time and making sure we've got all the right info after we've seen how everybody looks when they face off with each other. But I got a problem, okay? I got a bone to pick. We lost a fight today. If you haven't heard, we lost a fight. Abdulrazak Alhassan versus Joshua Fremd is off the card. And I'm upset because I'm having a shit year, okay? I'm getting my ass handed to me on a silver platter right now by the bookies, okay? I'm not having a good one. But when spots come along that you can just Babe Ruth it. You can just call your shot. It's going out of the fucking park. It's a good number. And you know the result. You can see it clear as day play out in your head. You got to take advantage of those spots. And we had one of those this weekend. Abdulrazak Alhassan was going to absolutely murder Joshua Fremd in the cage on Saturday, and they gave us a generous line. A line should have been minus 225, minus 250, minus 300. We were laying minus 160 on instead. It was beautiful. It was amazing. I wanted to crush it. It was a freebie. And Josh Fremd didn't want it. That son of a bitch. I can guarantee you we're going to see UFC roster tracker letting us know that Josh Fremd has been released from the UFC by this point. He was fighting for his job. His only significant win was beating Cedric Dumas when Dumas was high as a freaking kite on the night of the fight. That's as good as it gets. This guy was a fade for me. Circled, red, ink. Although I was like, I'm going to fade this guy until they stop me. And people were actually betting on him just a fight or two ago. I couldn't believe the line we got. The way Abdulrazak was going to do him dirty, oh, I would have cried with joy cashing the ticket, and they took it from us. They absolutely took it from us. I hope they rebook him. Rebook the fight. Turn it around. Put it on next week's card. I'm sure the bookies are going to move that line up to minus 250 if they pull that shit, but it don't matter because Abdulrazak Alhassan is whooping that ass, and I'm frustrated that we got a freebie taken away from us. Anyway, let's get into this card, okay? First fight of the night, you've got Clayton Carpenter. He's taking on Lucas Roka. We've got 125.5 pounds for both man, both guys look solid on the scales, no problem. Clayton Carpenter is built like a brick shithouse. Clayton is larger by a decent amount. I talked about this on the Monday show, you guys, when we like matched up this fight here. I think Clayton Carpenter is a justified favorite in this spot. He's sitting around minus 200, a little bit north of there at this point. And I think reason for that is Lucas Roka, even though he's got all the skills you'd want, he can scramble, he's got good cardio, he's got good striking, he's small. He's way too small for this weight class. Clayton Carpenter is a big dude, cuts a lot of weight to get down here, whereas Roka could probably fight a weight class below. If there was a 105-pound men's division, he probably could make that one. So I just think there's going to be a physicality size discrepancy here, and Clayton Carpenter is the beneficiary of that. He's going to be the one who goes ahead and gets this dub. I'm going to stay with picking him for the victory here. I don't have anything on him at this point. He is the perfect price tag for being like a two-legger parlay type of situation. So I am tempted to toss him in like a little two-legger spot here somewhere on this card. I haven't done it yet, but I am picking Clayton Carpenter. I do think he's the right side, and I really just think he's going to be able to physically outmuscle and control Roka throughout this fight. I'm not expecting a finish, so Clayton Carpenter by decision. That's going to be my my final prognostication here on this fight, and that is about plus 120. So the bookies are agreeing with me that that is the most likely outcome here on this spot. Dan Argueta takes on Cody Haden in the next fight. We had not one, not two, but three fighters miss weight on this card today, you guys, and only one of them actually ended up causing their fight to be dropped. Freaking friend. Dan Argueta misses weight, 138.5. Cody Haden 135 pounds on the dot. So Dan is coming in. I think he cut down like an extra half pound or something so that it was only the 2.5 pound allowance. They let him come back in and re-weigh in. He did look a little rough on the scales today, but this guy is thick, man. I mean, I talked about Clayton Carpenter being thick. Dan Argueta, this is a huge boy. He's got some muscle on him. He is good to go. Dan is about twice as wide as Cody Haden. When they go to face off with each other, Haden's got a slight height advantage, but dang, like you could stand Dan next to each other twice, and I'm sorry, you could have Cody standing next to himself twice here, and that's Dan Argueta. Like the guy's shoulders and back are just absolutely ridiculous. I am very tempted on Dan Argueta in this spot. I am not sold on Cody Haden. He's a minus 185 favorite at this point, and I just don't quite understand it. He's one of these guys who's coming in off the Contender Series with all the hype in the world, and everyone is just expecting him to come in here and light up Dan Argueta. And I just don't know if that's going to be what happens here, man. Dan Argueta has had a real rough run in the UFC. We talked about it on Monday. He's had a weird up and down situation, but he's blown through some people and he's been taken advantage of by some other guys, but he's always fought people that can grapple. I don't know that Haden is capable of grappling at the UFC level with this guy. And we've seen him get taken down. We've seen him get dragged around from Usyk. And I love Steve Usyk. You guys know that. I bet Steve Usyk. He's got decent jiu-jitsu, but he's not a wrestler. He's a striker too. I don't think that Dan Argueta is going to have any problem dragging Cody Haden's ass around this cage. And we have seen that the weight misses almost tend to benefit fighters in some of these situations. They come in the next night and they've got gas. You know, I always talk about wanting to fade people, especially when they cut themselves down to like missing by a half pound. You know, that's the one that really feels like it like sucks it out of you, right? It's hard to tell really what the effect of these weight misses is going to be. But generally speaking, when we get the 3 to 5 pound weight misses where they let the fights continue, those guys just always seem to have more energy later in the fight. And you've got a guy in Dan Argueta who is desperate right now, who's coming off a weird run where his job may legitimately be on the line, even though he's a 9-2 fighter. He had back-to-back no contests and then a loss. That's not a good place to be in the UFC. He needs a win and he needs it desperately. I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever if he saved just a little bit of gas in the tank, take a little bit of cut on that paycheck to make sure you stay on the fucking roster. That makes sense to me. We've seen it before in the UFC, and like I talked about in the past, guys, we're no longer going to complain about cheaters. We are not going to complain about people fence grabbing gloves, missing weight for an advantage. We're not going to bitch about that shit anymore. We're going to bet on it. We're going to make money when people do that shit. So I've been staring at Dan Argueta here in this spot basically all week. I like him as a plus money underdog. I really like the plus 3.5 because as long as he doesn't get finished in like round 3, I think he wins round 1 a lot. You know, I just can't see Haden being able to defend fresh takedowns from Dan Arwetta. So I think Haden's going to lose round 1. Haden may come back and win rounds 2 and 3, I guess, if Arwetta slows down. But if Arwetta doesn't slow down, I expect him to win the fight, period. But I think the plus 3.5 spread bet, if you have access to it, is not a bad play at all. And Arwetta by decision at plus 275, I don't think is half bad. If his dominance in the grappling is what I think it might be, the flyer on the sub prop at plus 650, I don't hate it. I know Cody Haden has not been, I don't believe he's ever been finished. His only loss is a decision, but I still also don't believe he's grappled anybody nearly capable of what Arwetta is capable of at this level. So he could very much get shown the door here at this spot. You know, let you know you need to level up there a little bit, homie, on the ground. So I don't hate the sub prop. I'm leaning towards decision. I like the money line. Live dog, missing weight. Give me those extra pounds, baby. Come on, Dan. Save your job. Get me a ticket. I think I'm going to add that to my card. Intermoon Training asking, is the Friend versus Abdul fight canceled? Yeah, I started the show with a rant about that one. It's off. It is off because Friend could not make weight. I guarantee you Abdul Razak Al Hassan probably like broke a table or something in the back. He accepted that fight, you guys. I guarantee you Abdul was like, just get me in there. This poor guy. He's had a couple of no contests and then a legitimate loss to Pfeiffer, but then the Cody Brundage situation and then canceled fights. Like, I feel so bad for Abdul Razak Al Hassan right now. Like him and Cody, him and Dan Arwetta, frankly, are in kind of the same boat here as far as the no contests and the cancellations and that kind of shit. Like they just can't get in the cage. And when they do get in the cage, something weird always happens. Like that's got to be the most frustrating thing in the world, especially for a fighter, you know, especially when you're putting hands on somebody and they find a way out of that cage without actually giving you your win. It's messed up. All right. Corey McKenna takes on Julian Pastry in the next fight. Both women made 115 pounds. Nothing to report as far as how they looked on the scales. Corey McKenna, absolutely not the type that you need to write home about the physique or anything like that. Corey McKenna is slightly larger in this spot. And this is part of why we do this show, you guys. In my mind, Julia Pastry was the larger of the two humans coming into this fight. I was not expecting Corey McKenna to be able to outsize her opponent in this one. She's not naturally larger than many people here. This was a very good face-off. This has been ping-ponging back and forth. I know a lot of people who have some hot opinions on this fight, and it's just always women's MMA, right? Every single one of us thinks that we see an edge, and this thing's a freaking coin flip. Minus 130 on Pastry, plus 110 on Corey McKenna. And frankly, I'm still on the Corey McKenna side of things on this one, you guys. It's so funny because Corey McKenna's money line is plus 110. Her decision prop is plus 125. They're like, no, we ain't fucking around with this. We know if she's winning this fight, it's going all 15. That's how bad it is right now. That's the state of Corey McKenna's reputation in the UFC. They're giving you 15 cents as an underdog for her decision prop. I'm sorry. I didn't realize they were going to choke it that hard. My God. Usually when you've got it, look at this. It's minus 130 for Pastry on the money line and plus 140 for her on the decision prop. Corey McKenna is the favorite on the decision prop when she's an underdog. They're like, bro, if this goes all 15, Corey is winning this fight and we're not going to give you a break on it. That is hysterical. I was tempted to add Corey McKenna by decision. I wanted to look at the number to see what it was, but it's not even fucking worth it. Oh my God. If you're going to play Corey McKenna, just play the money line at that point. My God, that is ridiculous. So I talked about this one on Monday. I don't know why I always say that. I talk about them all on Monday, you guys, every single week right here on Home of Fight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, at least until daylight savings time rolls over. On Home of Fight, I break down the entire fight card. So I apologize for repeating. I talked about this on Monday because I talk about them all on Monday. Julia Pastry is somebody who can be taken down. She's big. She's lumbering. She's not bigger than Corey McKenna, obviously, but she's slow. She's a little bit on the stiff side. And I think that's the kind of person that you can get your wrestling going against. Corey McKenna should have a significant speed advantage here in this spot. She's not going to have a power advantage, but she'll have a technical wrestling advantage. I think she puts Julia Pastry on her back. And then Pastry from there, she's willing to play jujitsu. And anytime you get a wrestler who likes to grind on top versus somebody who's willing to throw up arm bars, unless your name's Jacqueline Amarim, you're more than likely not going to catch Corey McKenna in an armbar. And if you're not going to catch her in an armbar, then I think Corey's going to just wash you for 15 minutes. So I actually really think Corey McKenna, you could make an argument she should be the favorite in this fight. I know a lot of people don't like Corey McKenna and would like disagree with that comment, but 0-1 Julia Pastry off Dana White's Contender Series, I am not overly impressed with, and I'll take the experience of Corey McKenna, especially with that wrestling back class and skill. I think you can take a shot on her at this spot, and I think you can justify it. I am trying to tighten up as far as my my actual bets are concerned, because I need to get a couple of wins here, you guys. I need to stack a couple of chips over here. So I'm not sure if I'll end up adding that one. The problem is anytime I do this, if I like him and Haw over a spot and then I end up, would have winning it, I just feel like an asshole, because it's like it was right there. I had the right read and I was too cowardly to actually put my money in there. So I might pull the trigger on Corey McKenna. We'll see what ends up happening. Give me some time to, sit here with my card now that I've lost my easy peasy spot on Abdul Razak Al Hassan. UFC newcomer Sean Sheriff takes on Junior Tofa. These are some big old boys. I mean, you got your classic heavyweight flabbies up here on this one. Sean more so than his opponent in this spot. That is a big, heavy man. Like, yeah. So we've got 252 pounds for Sean, 241 for Junior Tofa. Tofa does have a slight height advantage in this spot. I did not get a chance to run the tape on Sean Sheriff in this spot. The only thing I need to know is whether or not he's capable of a double leg. If Sean can wrestle for more than 5 minutes, he can win this fight. You've got Junior Tofa as a minus 310 favorite, and I would think that the script is out on him at this point. So if Sean is being given a plus 250 underdog tag, he probably can't shoot a double leg for any more than 1 or 2 attempts. So I'm expecting this to be a kickboxing match. And if it's a kickboxing match, I'm expecting Junior Tofa to probably get right. I'm never going to trust Junior Tofa at a minus 310 price tag. But if you were ever going to a short notice replacement opponent who is smaller than him, who may not be anywhere near UFC level, that's probably the guy you want to do it on. So if I've got time tonight, I will look into Sean a little bit and then kind of nail down whether or not I want to get involved here on this one, but it's probably going to be a Junior Tofa relatively easy win unless this guy has got some grappling chops that I'm simply not aware of. Let's go. Dixon trying to get me in trouble here. Who do you think is hotter, Corey or Julia? Yeah, my friend Dixon. If there's no redhead involved, not interested. Not interested. So next fight up, we got Themba Gorimbo, and he's taking on Niko Price. Both guys made 170.5 pounds today. Niko Price is always kind of a jacked monster. He's got a real weird body type. He's kind of funky long in some places. His arms are really stretchy and lanky. Like, that's why I've liked him. He's got awkward power that comes from weird situations, and you can tell just by looking at him that that's the case. Themba Gorimbo, tall, lanky, shredded. The guy is looking very good up there. Themba's got a big height advantage in this spot, you guys. This is another one. I've already got a bet on Themba Gorimbo just based on what I know and understand of this fight, but I wasn't expecting him to be this big. Niko Price is a big dude. Niko Price is a very big dude, and Themba is massive. Like, when they sized up, Themba's huge. This was an intense stare down, but Niko's got that crazy ass smile that he always gives. Like, that guy just likes to get in there and bang. I've always loved Niko Price, and him having that psychopath smile of like not caring how big or how muscly your opponent is. He just wants to get in there and punch somebody in the face. Like, that's why I've always loved Niko. So this spot, I think it's Themba Gorimbo. I'm pretty sure it'll be Themba by decision. I know Niko is pretty well shot, but I think Themba's going to have to go to the grappling here. I wouldn't be surprised with any kind of stoppage, frankly, because Themba is the type of guy who can get on top of you and rain down punches. He's big, he's explosive, and that's something the referee could step in and save Niko Price. We've seen the durability kind of chipping off for Niko. We've seen the cardio kind of chipping off for Niko. So a positional TKO on the ground doesn't shock me. And then Themba's improving. So the submission also wouldn't shock me either. We've seen Niko get washed on the mat by people before. And then Niko Price by knockout makes a ton of sense to me. Niko Price by sub, if he just jumps Gilly or something like that because Themba fucks up and this is his first step up in competition, I could see those types of finishes. So I actually think this is going to be a violent fight. I do think the under 2.5 is probably the move. Somebody probably gets finished in this fight. I'm expecting Themba to be the one doing the finishing. So I've got a parlay with Themba Gorimbo, and I think the UFC is putting him in a real spot where he can succeed, and I like the size advantage here as well. JSP and Pat Sabatini up next, 145 pounds a piece. JSP is so freaking tall, you guys. Like, another one where even more than Themba was against Niko Price. I did not think that there was going to be this kind of a height advantage for JSP. Now, Pat Sabatini, he's a really, really strong and powerful wrestler, man. We've talked about this before. When you're low to the ground, when you're short and you're muscly, being in close on those hips, that'll help you get to those takedowns that you really want. So Pat being the shorter guy isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world for him in a fight that should primarily be a grappling contest. Now, I do like the height and reach for JSP, especially during the striking portions of this fight, because we know Pat Sabatini, he just has no durability to write home about. He's not a guy that can take a whole bunch of damage and punishment. So if JSP comes in with the right game plan and is able to kind of fight long, look for those knees and elbows, keep him at distance, he can probably damage him up, get that cardio already a little bit down, get that self-belief a little bit down a couple times on the feet. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm looking for. Now, this one's tough because I gave out JSP at -130. That's what he was earlier in the week, and I'm very excited that I pulled the trigger on that one because I've got that nice CLV trophy. If you don't know, that's closing line value. CLV trophy is sitting in my pocket here for this one. Now, that's sometimes it's more of a curse than it is a good thing, but it seems like I am in a good position because JSP is now sitting at -185. And this is kind of where I thought the line should be in the first place. The reason I bet JSP at -130 is I felt he should be like a -180-ish favorite in this spot. I just don't trust the durability of Pat Sabatini, and unless you're getting a finish, grapplers are not getting the kind of love that they used to from the judges, unless, you know, forget this past weekend, right? The judging on that card was all over the freaking place, but you're not supposed to be getting that kind of love unless you're doing damage. I know Jonathan is going to look for damage. He's going to look for knees. He's going to look for elbows. When he gets to dominant positions, he's just going to sit there and hold you. He really looks to rough you up. So I expect he'll be scoring in those positions more than Pat Sabatini will. Durability edge for Pierce, striking edge for Pierce, grappling. I mean, Pat Sabatini is a pure grappler edge, but MMA grappling, maybe a wash. So I like the Pat Sabatini. I'm sorry, I like the Jonathan Pierce side of things. However, can't justify -185. Like I said, that's where I feel the line should be. So I can't tell you guys, hey, jump on in. You know, we want you laying -180 in this spot. I'm picking JSP to win, but I've got -130 in my pocket, and that feels a whole lot better than -200 does. Small World Lifter saying JSP doesn't hit hard. He might not hit hard, but he's a volume guy. He's a never-ending cardio guy. And the ground and pound, as Dixon Sider points out, is kind of more what we're looking for. I'm not saying he's a one-hitter quitter KO type of fighter. That's not... Don't get it twisted. JSP is not a guy that's going to come out Superman punch and put Pat Sabatini down. But death by 1,000 cuts, that's absolutely something that's possible. And especially when we're talking about grappling, if he postures up and rains down some damage, that's the kind of stuff that a chinny person like Pat Sabatini is not going to enjoy being on the receiving end of. Next up, you have got Ramazonbek Timorov. He is making his UFC debut, taking on CJ Vergara. 125.5 for Timorov, 126 for CJ Vergara. Both guys look really good. Timorov is in serious shape. That guy's ready to go here. CJ Vergara, always a professional in this spot, and he's big. You know, this was a very respectful face-off here, but you've got a size advantage on the side of CJ Vergara. And, you know, I had some people on Monday that were kind of laughing at me a little bit for giving CJ any kind of a chance in this fight. And the fact is, Timorov's a guy who's coming from overseas, who's not necessarily fighting at a proven UFC level. He looks like he's exciting. He looks like he lands big, powerful punches, but we've never seen him tested at this level. CJ Vergara is a guy that's fighting at about 500 at the UFC level. He's proven to be tough. He's proven to be durable. He's proven he's got cardio. He can hang with these guys at the UFC level. He's not special anywhere, but he is durable enough and good enough to like survive a 15-minute fight with like an Asu Amabayev, a guy that I'm very, very high on. So I think CJ Vergara is going to give this guy a test. I don't like -350 for Timorov. I get it, right? Like, you got to pick him to win. He's probably going to win. But CJ Vergara does have just a stature and size advantage in this spot. If he doesn't get nuked and put away by this little guy, would you be that surprised if CJ Vergara was able to implement like a wrestling game plan here? I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be shocked at all if CJ Vergara was able to get a couple of takedowns and steal a round or two and make this thing close. This could be a split decision, you guys. We're talking about little guys who are both tough, who are both durable. I'm going to give the edge to Timorov, absolutely. If it was -150, different story. But -350, not a chance. I'm not betting this one. I'll pick Timov to go ahead and get the win. I'm going to be cheering for CJ Vergara, Arizona boy. Hope he gets his hand raised. He's always counted out. He's always underappreciated. So, like, I want to see him succeed. And I wish I had the balls to actually pick him to outright win this fight. I don't, but I wish I did. I've bet on CJ Vergara before as a very big underdog. And we've cashed a couple tickets with him, actually, against Ode Osborne and also against I'm sorry, he lost against Ode Osborne, but we got him against Klidson Rodriguez, and we also got him against the Lacerda fight. So I've had a good history betting on CJ Vergara, and I will be watching this one live. This is a spot where you want to keep your eye on it live, because if Timov slows down, CJ won't let him off the hook. CJ absolutely will fight his way back into that one, make it close, make it competitive, and we've talked about that judging. You cannot trust these people as far as you can throw them. So CJ could be the guy that steals the split decision on Saturday. Alex Morono and Daniel Rodriguez. 170.5 for Morono, 170 for D-Rod. These guys have been around for freaking ever. There's nothing to report. Neither of them suddenly shows up with abs coming into this fight. Shocker, I know, right? They both look pretty washed. They're both a little old. They're both kind of reaching the downside of their career. D-Rod has a significant height and reach advantage coming into this spot, and I really do just have to pick him based on those kinds of things. I don't think that D-Rod is going to give up the guillotine to Morono. And if you're not going to volunteer to take the fight to the ground, Morono can't use his black belt. He doesn't wrestle. He doesn't come out here and push that kind of a game plan ever. So this is going to be a 15-minute striking match. Now, Morono's got volume. He's got pace. He's been tough and durable enough to hang in there with guys that hit hard. So I don't know that Daniel Rodriguez is just a lock to just knock him straight the fuck out. But I do think, even if it's close, that D-Rod will do enough to separate himself in this spot. I think it's going to go the full 15. So I'd be looking at decision type of stuff. But again, I'm not betting on this one. What I've noticed is when I have a bad read on somebody, or when I'm not generally successful betting on a fighter, and then I decide to get, hot with like a prop play or something like that, I lose those a lot. Why? Because I was never really reading them well in the first place. Shocker, right? So we're going to do that a little less here. I like Daniel Rodriguez to win the fight. I am picking him to win, but he's in that perfect minus 220 parlay buster range, right? Where if he's the one who's a little bit more shot than Alex Morono, would it shock you if Morono pulls off the decision victory by having more pace and more volume this weekend? No, it wouldn't. Not at all. This is not a fight that I want any part of. Grant Dawson and Rafa Garcia. 156 for Grant Dawson, 154.5 for Rafa Garcia. This was a really fun face-off, you guys. Grant Dawson looks great. Rafa Garcia built like a brick shit house. That dude is absolutely solid up there on the scales today. Good face-off. Grant has the height advantage here. We knew that coming in. Rafa Garcia a little bit on the short side, but it wasn't as pronounced as I thought it was going to be. Grant Dawson definitely is a little bit bigger, obviously, but I thought in my mind Rafa was going to be a decent bit shorter than he actually is. And he was intense. Rafa was glaring daggers at Grant Dawson. I like Rafa Garcia. I've always enjoyed me some Rafa Garcia. And I apologize. I keep saying Rafa as though he's a Brazilian. It's Rafa Garcia. But I've always enjoyed Rafa Garcia. And I think he's one of these guys who's just game. He's another version of CJ Vergara, right? This is lightweight CJ Vergara. This guy is not incredible anywhere. He's 30 years old, but he's got cardio, he's got durability, he's got pace, he's got a willingness to get in there, and every once in a while he'll pull off an upset. He's a plus 330 underdog right now. Grant Dawson is minus 425. He's the back take king. This guy just knows how to find people's weaknesses and openings on the mat, and he just exposes them and finds the back and rear naked chokes everybody. That's just what he does. But he also has a tendency to slow down. He puts such a pace on his opponents that he gets exhausted, and we cannot look past the bink of a jab that Bobby Green put on him that just completely floored him a couple of fights ago. I'm not sure what to make of Grant Dawson. What is he? Is he the next coming of JSP? Is he a flare out that's going to end up getting completely exposed when he tries to crack into the top 10? I freaking have no idea, because we've seen phenomenal performances from him, just flashes of brilliance. And then we've also seen these complete letdowns. The Ricky Glenn fight. Ricky Glenn just got cut by the UFC, and he was going life and death with this man because he wore himself out, had nothing left to offer, and in round 3, Glenn was pounding his head into the canvas floor. So I don't know what to make of Grant Dawson. This is another spot where I think you live bet it, right? If Rafa Garcia is hanging around at the end of round 2, and you start to see Dawson with that wide-eyed look, and he starts taking some deep breaths, maybe jump in on Rafa Garcia. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Rafa punches his way to like a 3rd round TKO or something like that. Let me just, for shits and giggles, let's take a look. 35-1 for Garcia to win via round 3 TKO. Yeah, that's the kind of sprinkle that I don't hate completely. Yeah, it's going to be a heavy grappling pace type of fight. I expect Dawson to control most of those grappling exchanges, but Garcia knows what he's doing in the grappling for the most part anyway. So this thing could get sketchy. And as Dawson tires out, I could see Garcia getting stronger. I'm not laying minus 425 on Grant Dawson. I'll pick Grant Dawson to win, but I'm not laying minus 425. Aussie Fight fans, what's up? Thanks for coming to hang out, everybody. What's up, JB in the house as well? We got corner pressure. Small word lifters already chiming in here a couple times. Do you think Grant Dawson could get the sub? I'm thinking under could be live. I do. This is a very difficult guy to finish. In fact, Garcia has never been cracked before. Nobody's been able to finish him. But I think Grant Dawson is kind of a wizard when it comes to the rear naked choke. He's got 13 wins by submission. So yeah, I do think there's absolutely an opportunity for Grant Dawson to end this thing via rear naked choke. He got Jared Gordon out of there. He got Mark freaking Olympian Madsen out of there with the rear naked choke. Like if you're able to choke those two guys out, I think you can choke out Garcia as well. And it seems like the UFC is kind of giving him a bit of a softball here, give him a little bit of a path to improving and getting another win on his record, developmental time, stuff like that. Plus 350 for the sub prop on Grant Dawson. I do not hate it because if he's still making improvements, if he does have his way on the ground, yeah, I do think the sub is live. But until I see somebody finish Garcia, I'm not going to bank on somebody finishing Garcia. But you know what? If history repeats itself or tells us anything about this fight, the round 3 sub is something that we probably should look at here. Because the sub is a nice plus 350 number. And we've seen Dawson do this multiple times. 18-1 for Dawson round 3 sub. Don't hate it. Don't hate it. All right, let's move right along here. Jared Gooden, the night train, takes on Chidi Njokuani. Gooden is the third fighter to miss weight here on this card, 172.5. I tried to look into that and see what was going on there. He didn't look bad, so I'm not sure why he missed weight. Like visually speaking, he looks like he's in great shape. He doesn't look like he's pale or sickly or anything like that to me. So I'm not sure what happened. He looked fine up there. Chidi Njokuani looks like he's got this 170-pound weight cut thing figured out. He is skinny ripped. You know what I mean? He's absolutely shredded up there. Just 0% body fat and no ounces of fat on his body to get him down to 170 pounds. Don't know how he does it. Chidi is so much larger. This is another one that was eye-opening to me. Jared Gooden is a guy who I've always thought of as being decently large at 170 pounds. He's fought at 185 before and didn't have great success. He had to drop back down to 170. I think he belongs more at 170. But Chidi towered over Jared Gooden in this spot. And it was really weird because Gooden, he was kind of craning his neck up at Chidi like a freaking turtle. I can't unsee it. Go back and watch the face-offs. Like he looks like a turtle sticking his head out of his shell. His neck is doing something real weird. But he refused to like shake hands with Chidi and he was like glaring him down. And it's like, I respect guys that like get worked up before fights. And some guys fight better emotional and all that kind of stuff. But Gooden's also like a good dude. So it was weird to see him like refuse the handshake for Chidi. Maybe it's that nice guy type of thing where like I can't be friends with you if I'm going to punch you in the face. Like Chidi's nice and respectful, and so is Jared Gooden. So he like needs to create that barrier until after the fight's over. I could see that being the case, but it was interesting to me to see him refuse the handshake from Chidi. I'm a little worried about the height and reach. I'm a little bit worried about the size. I have a bet here on Jared Gooden. He is my dog of the week, so I'm a little bit worried about the weight miss coming in here on this one. Chidi's a guy that I frankly am always looking to be on the other side of at this point. He's got rough cardio. He's got rough durability. He's 35 years old. He's been fighting for freaking ever. He's taken a lot of damage in his life. He just saved his job with a split decision over Reese McKee. And Reese McKee, I don't think is in the UFC much longer, you guys. Like, I just don't think he's going to cut it at this level. So if you're going to a split decision with that guy, I don't think you belong. Jared Gooden, this is his second stint in the UFC. So you can make similar arguments for him, but he's much younger. He's in his prime. He's 30 years old and he's looking better every time out. Like even on his short notice, jumping back into the UFC when he took on Carlston Harris, he didn't look out of place in that fight. And then when he fought Wellington Turman, he freaking finished him. And so I like Jared Gooden. I think he's got more upside than people are giving him credit for. He needs to push a pace here. He needs to wear out Chidi Njokuani, and he also needs to be able to survive that early onslaught because the step-in knees, the step-in elbows, that big blast body kick in round one, those are a problem. So as long as he can survive the round one onslaught from Chidi, I think Jared Gooden stands a good chance to win this fight. And it's time, folks. It's time to break out the tinfoil hat, because that's what we do when we got a hot read here. I think Jared Gooden is going to submit Chidi Njokuani the later this fight goes. I think Jared Gooden knows and understands that he's going to need to use his grappling to win this fight. I pray he knows that's the game plan. Jared Gooden is a BJJ brown belt, I believe, unless he's, again, and I said this on Monday, unless he's been updated to a black belt, and I haven't been able to confirm that, he is a BJJ brown belt. But Wellington Turman is a black belt trained by Glover freaking Teixeira. If you can choke that guy out, you're black belt level in my book. Chidi Njokuani is a fake black belt. Chidi Njokuani is a guy who got so much criticism for his ground game that he went and got a black belt because he wanted to patch that hole in his game, and then immediately dropped the gi and never grappled ever again. So he's got a weakness on the mat. He's been submitted 3 times throughout his career already. And if Jared Gooden pushes a pace on him and gets him tired, frankly, guys, I firmly, tinfoil cap, believe the gloves conspiracy going on here in the UFC. I think there's a problem. I absolutely believe that the new gloves are to blame for some of these KO punches just not landing with the same type of impact or force that they used to. I don't know why. I don't know how. But like, KO rates are just, they seem to be in the floor right now. So whether that's the USADA change, whether that's the gloves change, I'm not entirely sure. But you know what you cannot tough yourself out of? You know what you can't pad yourself out of? A choke. So I fully believe that when Chidi Njokuani gets worn out, gets tired, starts wearing down, that's when this thing is going to hit the ground. Jared Gooden round 2, round 3, he's going to go to work with the grappling, and that's when we hit that sub. Jared Gooden round 2 sub is 30-1. Jared Gooden round 3 sub is 45-1. And the sub prop by itself is 12-1. That's going to be my prop squad article for the Action Network. When I do my writing for the Action Network, we got to pick a prop every single week, and I'm going for it, guys. I'm on a little bit of a dry patch. My props have not been coming home in the last couple of months. So I'm going to get right with a big one. It's going to be Jared Gooden, not by KO. Everyone's thinking he's going to put hands on him. It's going to be Jared Gooden by sub, because Chidi's going to be gasping for air, and Gooden will just grab that neck deep in the 3rd round and put him away, make him tap. That's the move. That's the move. All right, co-main event, guys. Do me a favor, if you would, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't here to Home of Fight. Please join Home of Fight, guys. We've got promo code. You know what? I think promo code Dana might be about up. For Dana White's Contender Series, we give a 5-day free trial to the premium subscription, where people who are far more consistent with giving winners as far as MMA bets are concerned are available, and you guys can tail them, and they've just been crushing Dana White's Contender Series. So give promo code Dana a shot. It might still be active, so you'll be able to get this weekend's fight picks and then also the Tuesday night Contender Series picks for this final week coming up. This would be a perfect time to use that 5-day trial to make sure you get all of those picks bundled into it and try it for free, and then just check it out. Give it a shot. You know, Jung Young Park takes on Brad Tavares, 185.5 pounds, 185 for Tavares. Tavares is bigger. You know, Tavares is a guy who is at home in this weight class very much. He's built the right way. He's got the right frame for it. I've always enjoyed me some Brad Tavares. He's a guy that we've bet on many a time. I like his pace, his ability to keep the fight standing where he wants it to be. He's very technical. He's tough enough. He's always been very durable, but that seems to be kind of slipping at this stage of his career. Now, he does have a size advantage, like I mentioned, over Jung Young Park. That's not out of the ordinary. Park is usually just a little bit on the smaller side at this weight class, but I like his durability, which still seems to be intact. I like his pace. I like his pressure. I like his boxing. I think this is going to be a split decision, you guys. Like, I'm picking Jung Young Park. I do think he's the rightful side. I think he's got more gas in the tank at this stage of his career. So I am going to go ahead and pick him to win. But Brad Tavares is not a slouch. He's not a guy that you can just look past. He's not a guy you're just going to run through unless you've got the power of a Hobocop Gregory Rodriguez, right? Like, that's the only kind of guy that you need to be able to just dump this guy. Everybody else, he puts the test to. So if you're going to be a contender in this weight class, you've got to get by Brad Tavares. It's not an easy test to pass. So I expect this to be a competitive fight. Jung Young Park by decision. That's the read. Plus 140 instead of laying minus 198, minus 200. I think that makes a ton of sense, but this should be a very, very competitive fight. Now, you can't ever rule out Jung Young Park by submission just because the guy knows how to find his way to a back take. And when he does get you tired, when he does get you worn out, when he does hurt you a little bit, that's when he climbs his way onto your back and taps you out. The dude has an incredible rear naked choke, and the pace just kind of breaks people. He's 33 years old, so it's not like he's a spring chicken or anything like that, but we've seen Brad Tavares kind of cracking a little bit. I wouldn't be shocked if like rib roasters and body shots and, coming off the last couple of fights he's had where it's just been war after war and damage taking, like if Brad Tavares kind of like crumpled to a knee and Jung Young Park grabbed his back and tapped him out in the third round, would that be so insane? Like, I'm not going to bet it. I'm not predicting it. Like I said, it's a decision. I think it's going to go all 15, but I would not be shocked by a late finish from Jung Young Park. Main event time. Brandon Royval, 125 pounds, matched by Tatsuro Taira, who also came in at 125 and a half. This one worries me a little bit, you guys. So my 2-leg parlay, I did Thimba Garimbo, and I parlayed Thimba with Tatsuro Taira. I have been the number one Royval fan on planet Earth throughout the last couple of years. I've been pounding my chest and telling people how good Brandon Royval is, and I bet him to win the belt off of Pantoja in the last fight. He's a Diaz bro. He's a pride fighter. He's the type of guy that if there was no time limits in MMA, he would beat everybody. He just never stops. He's got everything you want. He's got pace. He's got cardio. He doesn't hit super hard, but he's a death by 1,000 cuts type of fighter. And when he goes to work with knees and elbows, he absolutely can rough you up and damage your face and cut you. And those can lead to stoppages. He's got slick jiu-jitsu. He knows how to scramble. He never stops moving. I love everything there is to love about Brandon Royval. Tatsuro Taira, he's a control grappler. He hits decently hard. His striking has come a long way. And I know he's had a bit of a weird run, a little bit of a fluky type of win his last time out. And a lot of people are kind of holding that against him here in this spot. But the fact is, I think this is a changing of the guard type of matchup. The UFC has brought Tatsuro Taira along very slowly. They've given him the right kinds of matchups. They've given him years to grow and improve. Brandon Royval apparently is now training out of like the UFC, just like the UFC gym or like some dude's backyard up there. Like he left Factory X, so he doesn't have a coach. He doesn't have a person. I don't know that that's a huge knock on Brandon Royval because he's the type of guy that will literally just get in there and scrap. But he also is a guy that is chaotic, and he's not the most durable fighter we've ever seen. We've seen him rocked. We've seen him hurt. We've also seen his body like literally just falling apart before. I mentioned the Brandon Royval versus Brandon Morono fight on Monday where his shoulder popped out of place. That's like a lifelong injury, something that just fucking happens to the dude. And he got hurt by Matt Schnell on the feet in 2022 before he snatched up that guillotine. So this is not a guy who's impervious, right? This is a guy who can be had. He's a guy that can be hurt. He's got a guy with lots of injuries piling up on his body. He also has the ability to scramble, but the ability to give up his back. And, Pantoja was able to exploit that. That's something that I absolutely believe Taira will also be able to do. But I will tell you the vibe check, Royval passed the vibe check, you guys. You remember a week or so ago for UFC Paris, when Matt Frivola got his shoulder tapped by his opponent when he kind of, shook the coach's hands and then he walks by and he like pats Frivola on the shoulder instead. Almost like, buddy. And then he went in there and knocked his ass out with a knee. Royval kind of looked at Taira and kind of like cocked his head off to the side and like smiled at him and then shook his hand like, you ain't ready, kid. And I got to tell you, that sent a chill down my spine that I was like, oh no. Like if Royval is feeling like that kind of confident, like you don't belong in there with me, kid, like that could spell trouble. I mean, obviously he could be wrong. But that's the kind of power move. That's the kind of thing that I look into a little bit and I do respect. And especially because I'm a Royval guy, especially because I've always bet on Brandon Royval. And as an underdog, he just prints money because he keeps on freaking winning. Just makes me nervous. So I've got a big parlay anchored on Tatsuro Taira. I do think he's eventually going to get to Brandon Royval. And frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a finish, something that Pantoja wasn't able to do. And then Taira gets to call out the champ for his title shot in 2025. I could see that being the move. I'm picking Taira to win. It makes me sad. I'm a huge fan of Brandon Royval. But we also know that coming off of a title shot loss, it's almost like a Super Bowl hangover. Fighters just don't perform to the best of their abilities in that next fight, whether it's not being able to get up for the next opponent, not being able to accept that you got to grind your way back up to the top of the mountain after just having gotten there. We just see everybody coming off a title shot. They don't seem to do well. And I think we're going to see that sophomore slump here from Brandon Royval coming off the loss to Pantoja. And I think the playbook is out on Brandon Royval. Taira can do a lot of the same things that Pantoja did to be able to work his way to a victory. Would not be shocked by a late finish, believe it or not an early finish, but a late finish. Wouldn't be shocked by like a positional TKO. And kind of like I talked about with my co-host on Monday, Liam, if Brandon Royval's body is falling apart the way I kind of think it is, I wouldn't be shocked by another weird fluky injury type of situation where he hurts an elbow or a shoulder or something like that and isn't able to continue. So just be careful with the overs, because the decision definitely is something that I think is most likely, but don't rule out a finish. Like the finish numbers are crazy on this fight. And also Tatsuro Taira could just get exposed at this top level, right? Like Brandon Royval is a finisher to the highest order. So if Tatsuro Taira is not ready for the contender circle, Brandon Royval will show him that in a hurry. So violence could be on the table for this fight as well. That is the Undefeated post-weigh-in show, folks. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Do me a favor, let me know what your favorite bet is down in the comments below after the live stream is over. Make sure you're subscribed here to Home of Fight, Home of Bets, and then please, like I said, check out the links in the description below. I've got a lot of awesome tools to help you out, a lot of awesome handicappers and people that can help you put money in your pocket. That's really what I'm trying my best to do here. And then I got to get myself back on track because we're getting close to the end of the year in a hurry. I need to stack some chips. I can't believe they robbed me of an easy win on Abdulrazak Al Hassan. I'm pissed. All right. Last time, we're going to chill it out, let that go. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Good luck. Let's roll.